In the late 19th century, the map of Africa began to change faster than ever before. For centuries, much of the continent had remained beyond European control. Traders came to its coasts for gold, ivory, and enslaved people, but few ventured deep into the interior. That changed between the 1880s and the eve of the First World War, in a period known as the Scramble for Africa. In less than 30 years, almost the entire continent was divided among the great powers of Europe. At the start of the 19th century, European influence in Africa was limited to a few colonies: Algeria and Egypt in the north, small Portuguese settlements in Angola and Mozambique, and the British Cape Colony in the south. By the 1880s, industrialization, nationalism, and the search for raw materials drove expansion. European powers competed for markets, prestige, and access to Africa's vast resources. Steamships, quinine medicine, and rapid-firing rifles allowed them to explore and conquer areas once unreachable. Explorers such as David Livingstone, Henry Morton Stanley, and Pierre Savorgnan de Brazza mapped Africa's great rivers and interior lands. What began as exploration soon became political competition. One of the first to act was King Leopold II of Belgium. In the early 1880s, he hired Stanley to secure treaties in the Congo Basin. These agreements, often forced, gave Leopold personal control over a huge region in Central Africa. In 1885, the Berlin Conference, organized by German Chancellor Otto von Bismarck, recognized Leopold's claim, creating the Congo Free State, 75 times larger than Belgium. Presented as a humanitarian project, it became notorious for forced labor and brutality in the pursuit of rubber and ivory. The Berlin Conference of 1884 and 1885 was the turning point of the scramble. 14 European nations, including Britain, France, Germany, Portugal, and Italy, met to set the rules of colonization. No African leaders were invited. The conference declared that any claim had to be backed by effective occupation, meaning physical control. This rule triggered a race to seize territory. On maps, the blank spaces of Africa quickly filled with European colors. Britain and France became the main rivals. France expanded south from Algeria and west from Senegal. By the end of the century, French control stretched from the Atlantic Ocean to the Red Sea, a chain of colonies known as French West Africa and French Equatorial Africa. Britain pursued a different dream, a continuous empire from Cairo to Cape Town. British forces advanced north from South Africa and south from Egypt, aiming to connect the two by rail and telegraph. In the east, Britain took territories that would become Kenya and Uganda. In the south, it fought the Second Boer War against Dutch settlers from 1899 to 1902, securing control of South Africa and its rich gold and diamond mines. Germany, newly unified in 1871, joined late but moved fast. It claimed territories in present-day Tanzania, Namibia, Cameroon, and Togo. Italy took parts of the Horn of Africa, Eritrea, and Somalia, and later tried to conquer Ethiopia. But in 1896, at the Battle of Adwa, Ethiopian forces under Emperor Menelik II defeated the Italians, keeping their independence. Only Ethiopia and Liberia, founded by freed African Americans, remained free from European rule. Across the continent, new borders ignored geography, culture, and language. Lines were drawn across mountains and rivers, dividing ancient kingdoms and communities. European companies extracted resources, built ports and railways, and introduced cash crops that changed local economies. Colonial governments imposed taxes, labor, and European laws, often enforced by violence. By 1900, about 90% of Africa was under European control. Britain ruled from Egypt to South Africa. France held most of the west. Germany, Belgium, Portugal, and Italy divided the rest. Only a few coastal areas remained independent or under local rulers. In one generation, a continent once largely free had been carved into foreign empires. The scramble for Africa was not only a race for land, but also an ideological project. European leaders spoke of civilizing missions and the duty to bring Christianity and progress. In truth, colonization was driven by competition, wealth, and power. It also deepened rivalries among European nations, tensions that would later contribute to the First World War. For Africans, the consequences were immense. Traditional societies were disrupted, resources exploited, and borders redrawn. Rebellions, from the Zulu Wars in the south to the Mahdist uprising in Sudan, were suppressed but not forgotten. The colonial borders drawn during this era would outlast empire itself, shaping Africa's modern nations. By 1914, only Ethiopia and Liberia remained independent. The rest of the continent was covered with the flags of Europe: British red, French blue, German black-white-red, and the Belgian yellow-black-red of Leopold's Congo. It was a division decided not by Africans, but by rulers in distant capitals thousands of miles away. The scramble for Africa lasted barely 3 decades, but its effects still echo today. It changed trade, politics, and the destiny of millions. Between 1880 and 1914, a continent was partitioned, and the modern world, for better or worse, was redrawn.